So for that to be your first game, for Dylan Gabriel to be in Europe, in England in particular, London, against Brian Flores' blitz-happy scheme, that would be an interesting choice for sure.
You're tuned in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, guiding your gridiron journey, none other than your host, former NFL lineman, Ross Tucker.
Oh, yeah, it is. But it's not just any Ross Tucker Football Podcast. It is a Picks Wednesday. I give you who I think is going to win every game and why every single Wednesday morning, very early, 28 minutes or less. That is the goal. That's the promise. Whatever. You can check me out on social media at Ross Tucker NFL. Certainly check us out at Ross Tucker Pod. Love all of you that check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. Always stick around to the end because not only do I have some potential news for you guys, but there's NFL news to get to, right? We got Lamar Jackson news. We have big Browns quarterback news. We'll get to that after I give you my picks for every game. Hard to believe it's October and week 5 already in the National Football League. It's big show time.
Want to know which team is going to win every single game on Sunday? Then listen up.
All right, Ross, our first game's Thursday night. One you might know a thing or two about. The Niners. They're at the Rams.
Game number 1 for your boy this week. It'll be a Westwood One Thursday nighter. I'll be with Kevin Kugler, who is fantastic. Love doing games with Kevin. Very much looking forward to that. And it's not looking good for the Niners right now from a health standpoint. You know, Tuesday's simulated practice. They don't have like a real practice, but no Juwan Jennings, no Ricky Pearsall, no Brock Purdy. So they are really thin now at receiver. I mean, now you're talking about Kendrick Bourne, being like their number one guy because remember, Ayuk's already out. It's not a good situation. And I will say, I think that the Niners have now opened themselves up to considerable criticism as it relates to Brock Purdy if he does not play, which I would suspect he probably doesn't because A, Mac Jones played well when he played, and B, they'll have 10 more days for Purdy to let that toe heal after this game. The question, though, is why did you bring him back before this to the point where he could re-aggravate it? You won 2 games in a row with Mac Jones. Purdy's your guy. This is a gigantic division game against the Rams. They could have waited till this game. They could have theoretically let him sit out 2 more games. That's what I would call a medical competitive advantage or disadvantage. In this case, it's a disadvantage because I don't think they would have put him out there if they thought he could re-aggravate it, but he did. So somebody was wrong in the Niners medical department, and that's big. If Mac Jones plays poorly and they lose tomorrow night, there will be a lot of frustration, and probably rightfully so. As for the Rams, they just have a really good team. O-line's pretty good. I like both running backs. I like both receivers. Stafford's still playing at a high level. His health, his back has held up to this point. And defensively, their D-line's ferocious. They've got some good pieces in the secondary like Quentin Lake. I'll take the Rams to win this game. No hesitation. I don't know how many points the Niners would put up. They're a little bit healthier on defense. So I'll say, I think maybe the Niners, I always wonder if this is like wishful thinking. I think maybe the Niners can keep it competitive. 23-17 Rams.
Next up, the Minnesota Vikings. They're at the Cleveland Browns.
The Minnesota Vikings. And no, they are not. This game is in the UK. So technically, I guess the Browns are the home team, like the Steelers were last week in Ireland. But the game is across the pond, which interestingly, the Vikings They're getting 2 neutral site games instead of having to play at Pittsburgh and at Cleveland. No wonder they wanted to stay over there for a week. That's a major, major advantage for the Minnesota Vikings. But they weren't able to get it done against the Steelers, and they are really banged up. I mean, really banged up. The interesting news about this one that maybe I'll talk about later, Jack, it's not a report yet, or I guess it is a report, but there are multiple reports out there that it looks like the Browns are getting Dylan Gabriel ready to start this game. So the transition in Cleveland could be upon us. That would be fascinating, just in the sense that Brian Flores has maybe the most complicated blitz package and defensive scheme in the league. So for that to be your first game, for Dylan Gabriel to be in Europe, in England in particular, London, against Brian Flores' blitz-happy scheme, that would be an interesting choice for sure for Cleveland. Now, Gabriel does a good job of getting rid of the ball, but boy, that they would throw the kitchen sink at him. I mean, they would anyway, but Flores takes it to another level. I don't really have a great feel for this. I think I'll take the Vikings because I'm going to say that being over there for the whole week is an advantage as opposed to the Browns having to get acclimated. And, based on this news about Gabriel, sometimes rookies come out there and play really well in their first game. But I would not want to do that against the Vikings defense. Browns offensive line still really beat up. As Steve Fezzik and I talked about on the Even Money Betting podcast, the first episode yesterday, not expecting a lot of points in this one. Let's call it 16-13 Vikings.
Next up, the Houston Texans. They're at the Baltimore Ravens.
This is more news that we're going to get to later, but I can at least touch on now. There's also a report out there that it looks like Lamar Jackson may miss 2 or 3 weeks with a hamstring injury, which means it's Cooper Rush time. Now, that said, this is different than just coming in the middle of a game like he did against the Chiefs. If Cooper Rush does in fact start this week, the advantage here is that Todd Monken, the OC for the Ravens, the whole offense will be designed around what he can do now, right? That was not the case when they played against the Chiefs last week. So we know what Cooper Rush is, kind of a heady guy, ball out quick, accurate on the underneath stuff. That will have to be what they major in. But that's not going to be easy against that Texans defense that is very, very good. I think the real question, since I called the Texans against the Titans on CBS last week, the real question is whether or not the Texans offense can pick up where they left off. But this Ravens defense has been so bad, this year. I think they're last in certain categories. I think I'm going to take the Ravens to win the game. They're healthier than the. Did I say Ravens or Texans?
So the Ravens, I thought.
Oh yeah, no, I meant Texans. I think I'm going to take the Texans to win the game. I don't know how many points there will be, but I'm going to say let's go 19-16 Texans. I don't have faith they're going to put up a lot of points on this Ravens D, but I think enough. And I don't have faith that Cooper Rush going to put up very much. 19-16 Texans get what would be a really significant win on the road.
A game that'll probably end up being very crucial for draft positioning in a few months. The Dolphins, they're at the Panthers.
There's a decent chance of that, Jack. I kind of like where your head's at with that one. I don't think either one of these teams ends up like a number 1, number 2 pick, though. I think that's more Titans, Saints, maybe Jets. These teams seem to me more to be like in the picks 4 through 8, which still matters for draft position. So the Panthers are a really tough team to figure. That was embarrassing for them up in New England. Now they're back home. The Dolphins, short week, no Tyreek Hill. I'm going to say that the Panthers bounce back and get a win because of the short week, no Tyreek Hill for the Dolphins, and that the Panthers were embarrassed. I still don't think the Dolphins' defense is very good, but I don't know that there's a ton of points in this one. But I'll say, let's say 20-16. Carolina gets win number 2 at home against the Dolphins.
We got a 1970 AFC Championship rematch between the Raiders and the Colts.
Yeah, back then it was the Oakland Raiders and the Baltimore Colts. Now we got the Vegas Raiders and the Indianapolis Colts. That kind of makes me sad. Although at least, Baltimore still has a team. For Oakland, that just stinks, man. Like, what if you're a kid growing up in Oakland? I mean, I know it's not that far from San Francisco, but if you ever ask anybody from out there, Oakland and San Francisco are not the same thing. And they're very territorial, I would say, about that. I think it's really hard to pick the Raiders to win this game. Maybe they will, but Colts have been extremely consistent. Colts would have gotten an immense win against the Rams if it weren't for those A.D. Mitchell mistakes last week. And I'll believe that the Raiders and Geno Smith can stop turning it over and that they can close out a game when I see it at this point. Go ahead and give me the Colts to win this one. I think the Raiders will score some points, but I think the Colts will also. 30-20. The Indianapolis Colts win by 10. 30-20. Don't go anywhere. Got to pay some bills real quick. WestShoreHome.com/Ross, project number 6, I think it is. I lost track. They did the 2 upstairs bathrooms. That's 1 and 2. Then they did the front door. That's 3. Then they did 3 more doors. 4, 5, 6. So this is my 7th West Shore Home project. They are awesome. I actually know these guys now at this point. And not only that, the deals they have for you guys, it's crazy. You can buy a full bath remodel and get a shower, replace another bathroom free, or buy a house full of windows and get an entry door free. 12 months, no payment, no interest financing. Save that money, invest that money. And how about this? Just because it's me and just because it's you, they'll give you an extra $500. But you have to schedule it through WestShoreHome.com/Ross. WestShoreHome.com/Ross. See the website for details. Cannot emphasize enough how cool the merch is at rewards.labattusa.com. Even if you're not a regular or loyal Labatt or Labatt Blue Light drinker right now, go to rewards.labattusa.com to see all the different types of merch. I told you guys a million times, the cooler backpack has been a life changer for me. Life changer. It might even just give you ideas for things you want to buy, even if you're not a Labatt person, but you should be. Rewards.labattusa.com. Rewards.labattusa.com. Buy beer and get gear.
Next, the New York Giants. They're at the New Orleans Saints.
Well, good news for the Giants is Jackson Dart got off to a pretty good start. The bad news is no Malik Neighbors. Trying to see who's favored in this game to see if it's underdog. It's not. But I like the Saints to win the game. I don't think the Saints are going winless. And this would be the game that they would win. Giants are coming off of a win. Everybody feels better. And they're getting pats on the back. Nice win. No Malik Neighbors, who's such a significant part of what the Giants do. I do not think the Saints will let Cam Scattaboo run all over them. And I do think the Saints, I don't think there's a lot of points in this one because of the way that Giants D-line is looking right now. So this is another lower scoring game, but this time the Saints come out on top. 20-17, Spencer Rattler gets his first career win as an NFL starting quarterback in his, I think, 10th try. Good for him, man. I hope it happens.
Next up, the New York Jets. They're hosting the Dallas Cowboys.
Jets, 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 Jets. This is kind of in that same category, I almost feel like, where it feels like this is the type of game that the Jets would get their first win. You know? I mean, they got to win one of these games, and it feels like this would be the one. Now, they're on a short week too, but the Cowboys played those extra 10 minutes. Cowboys are banged up. I don't know that I can pull the trigger, though. Like, I don't know if I can physically pull the trigger on Justin Fields and the Jets to beat Dak Prescott and the Cowboys. I'm not going to do it. Remember, when I make my picks on this show, it's where I would put my money, where I would tell you guys to put your money. And I'm not putting my money in Fields and the Jets over Dak and the Cowboys the way Dak has played. So it could go either way, but late in the game, give me Dak. I'll say 24-23 Cowboys. Pretty entertaining game. Could go either way.
Next, the Denver Broncos. They're traveling to Philadelphia to play the Eagles.
Isn't it weird that this is another Sunday 1 o'clock game? You know, this is the third week in a row. The Eagles must be bad for ratings or something. This is the third week in a row where I think you could argue the best game is the Eagles game. And instead, what's the featured game this week? You know, is it Lions-Bengals or is it Commanders-Chargers? One of those two is the featured game for Fox when it feels to me like Denver-Philly is... Am I crazy, Jack, or is Denver-Philly much better?
I think Denver-Philly's definitely a better matchup, but I also said that the last few weeks, so I refrain from it for right now. But the broadcast map's not out yet, so I can't tell you what the marquee matchup is for this week yet.
Well, you could just Google what game Tom Brady's doing, and that would tell you, because he's doing the marquee 425 game. But do you look at broadcast maps?
I do, yeah. I always think it's interesting, because I like seeing like the little pockets. Like Louisville's always got like the Ravens games. Like Oregon's always got the Chargers games. I like seeing like the interesting little weird regions for that.
That is interesting. So I was never into that. I never cared until I was curious which people could watch my game. It's been funny to see where, you know, my games are available or where my games will watch. And yes, they do take that into account. Basically, they put the game on in each area that they think the most people will watch, right? Mm-hmm. And so if people in Louisville love Lamar Jackson, so they think, okay, let's put the Ravens game on. People like to watch Lamar. So this, you know, if the Eagles play, you know, kind of the way they have the last couple of weeks, meaning they only play well for a half, I think they'll lose the game. But I just have faith right now, I guess, that they'll figure it out. Maybe the A.J. Brown drama helps them in that regard. You know, the Broncos having to come to the East Coast on a short week after a Monday night game is certainly not ideal for them. So give me the Eagles. They're just that talented, but this would be a game they would lose just because of how well the Broncos have been playing. But I'll say that the Eagles find a way to get it done. They normally do. 21-20 Eagles, I think, or like 24-20, something like that. Another close heart stopper where they find a way late around behind the home crowd.
Next, we've got the Chris Johnson Bowl. The Titans, they're at the Cardinals.
Chris Johnson played for the Cardinals?
Several years, like 3 years to end his career.
Really?
Yeah. It was like he went Tennessee, then he was like a year at the Jets, and then Arizona.
Who was the quarterback?
It had to have been Paul. I'm trying to think. It's like early 2010s it was like mid 2015, so it might have been Rosen.
I don't remember that at all. And you're not confusing Chris Johnson with David Johnson, are you?
I am not. I stat checked it right here. Yeah, 2014 Jets, Cardinals 15-17.
Wow. That is rare for me to not remember that. I guess he didn't do very much. Obviously, I'll be taking the Arizona Cardinals in this one. Titans are struggling. I think they'll win a game, but they got to perform certainly better than they have the last couple of weeks. They were more competitive the first couple of games. Now, they were competitive against it should have been a tie game at the end of the third quarter against the Texans if Joey Sly had made both of his field goals. Cardinals are kind of reeling a little bit after both of those losses, but I think they'll find a way to get this win because they need it desperately. They lost a couple close division games, but they'll get this one. Hopefully, the way they were connecting at the end, and they had extra time since the Thursday night game, extra time to kind of prepare, heal up for this one. The Cardinals get to a winning record. I think the score here is the Titans' defense isn't bad. I'll say 20-13. 20-13 Cardinals.
So the reason you're getting confused, both Johnsons were on the team in 2015, and David Johnson took over as the main back in 2016. So that might have been some confusion there. But we got
That's what I remember.
The Buccaneers, they're at the Seattle Seahawks.
This is a juicy game, but this isn't the marquee game either. This game's on CBS, and it's a Fox doubleheader weekend. That's a really juicy game, and CBS has it, which is good for my company, I guess. I'm off, by the way, this week from NFL. There's only 5 CBS games. Instead, I have Air Force at Navy Saturday, which all of you can watch. As a reminder, I love when you take a screenshot at the start of the game, noon Eastern time, of me on camera. It's almost an automatic repost if you share it with me, at Ross Tucker NFL. We're at Ross Tucker Pod. I think you got to go Seattle here. Now, Tampa obviously has done some really positive things, but the no Mike Evans. I know Seattle hasn't been as good at home, but they're still a really good team. So give me Seattle to win the game. They've been on a roll since the opener. I think it's probably a pretty back and forth game. I'm going to say 27-23 Seattle.
Next up, the Detroit Lions. They're at the Cincinnati Bengals.
I don't know how you pick the Bengals to win any game at this point. Maybe this is like a stunner like the Browns beating the Packers, but I'm all over the Lions. They look like they're back on being a machine, back in rhythm. Let's say Lions 31, Bengals 17. I'm going to pick the Bengals to play better when I see it.
The Commanders, they're at the Chargers.
So, Commanders are pretty beat up. The Chargers are too. It's almost like even. The Commanders' defense has really been struggling. So, this is kind of a toss-up game. I'm going to take the Chargers to bounce back because we still don't know the status of Daniels or McLaurin yet. And this Commanders' defense is struggling. So, I'll take the Chargers to win an entertaining game, 27-23. San Diego Superchargers. San Diego Chargers.
Next, we got a big AFC East battle between the Patriots and the Buffalo Bills.
So it would not. The primetime games are good this week. That's a fun game to see Drake May, to see Vrabel, Sunday Night Football, everybody watching. I think the Bills win, but they better be on upset alert because the Patriots are definitely much improved. Patriots are definitely the second best team in the AFC East. Drake May's done some really positive things. He's kind of like Josh Allen light, or a poor man's Josh Allen. I think this is a barn burner until the end, but if that's the case, you better believe I'm taking Josh Allen over Drake May to pull it out, make the plays necessary late to win the game. I do think there's a decent amount of points in this one. I don't know if I'm going to go into the 30s, but I will say 27-26. The Bills win on a late field goal.
And the last game of the week is the Chiefs. They're at the Jacksonville Jaguars.
How about the Jaguars having a better record than the Chiefs in this game? So I hope for the Jaguars' sake. They don't get a lot of primetime games. Certainly not a lot of home primetime games. And it's against the Chiefs. This is a juicy matchup. This is more or less, introducing Liam Cohen and Travis Hunter and the new Jags regime to the world. The problem for them is that I don't know that they'll continue to have that turnover fortune that they've had, especially not against Patrick Mahomes. Felt like Patty got his groove back on Sunday against the Ravens a little bit. And again, even if I think it's a close game, which I do, I'm not taking Liam Cohen and Trevor Lawrence over Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes late in a close game. That's not a thing that's happening. I'm not doing it. So 23-20, Mahomes makes whatever plays he needs to make late for the Chiefs to get back-to-back wins and both teams to be 3-2 after this game. More great stuff right after this. I'm expecting a bunch of Bloody Marys, not to drink them, but to see them as I'm driving in the stadium Saturday for Air Force Navy. It's a noon kick, so the people drinking at whatever it is, 9 a.m., 10 a.m., probably having Smirnoff because it's the world's #1 vodka and an award-winning vodka, been around since 1864. They do game days. Smirnoff brings the energy, fun, flavors for any occasion. And look, it doesn't have to be a Bloody Mary. Grab a bottle of Smirnoff at your local retailer and head to Smirnoff.com to find recipes of delicious cocktails perfect for game day. Please drink responsibly. Smirnoff number 21 vodka, distilled from grain, 40% alcohol by volume. The Smirnoff Company, New York, New York. Please not share with anyone under legal drinking age. First college game of the year for me, and it is a doozy. Air Force at Navy. I'm looking at the Game Time app right now, and it looks like the get-in price is $95. Looks like that's in the end zone. I've never done a game at Navy. I am beyond excited. The stadium looks incredible, and it's a hot ticket because it's only every couple years that Navy gets to host one of the other service academies. The key with the Game Time app is you can actually see the view from the seat with the panoramic view, the lowest price guarantee, and the fees are included. Would love to see some of you guys in Indianapolis. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code ROSS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. So again, create an account and redeem code ROSS for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today.
Tuck's Takes.
All right, Ross, we've got some news around the league, starting with the Raiders. They're putting their left tackle, Colton Miller, on the IR.
Really, really bad. And this has happened to a bunch of teams already this year where they've lost their tackles. Rashawn Slater and DeJuan Jones. And that's a bad, bad position to lose a guy. Now, those guys are for the season. I don't know that that's the case with Colton Miller. But still, the Raiders' offensive line already wasn't playing well, and now you lose your best guy?
Next up, something you also touched on earlier, Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson. He's reportedly out 2 to 3 weeks with a hamstring injury.
You know, they got to find a way to win one or two of these games. I still think they'll win the division, but you don't want to be in a position where you're 3 or 4 games behind the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are starting to figure things out.
And something you predicted to an exact T in the preseason. After 4 weeks, the Browns are reportedly prepping Dylan Gabriel to start at quarterback this week.
Well, what's interesting about that is that that's a standalone game Sunday morning that we'd all be able to watch. You know, it's that 9:30 Europe game. So looking forward to that one over in the UK if Gabriel gets the start. Obviously looking forward to Greg Cosell, the NFL Films legend, the next 2 days. Spread the word on social media at Ross Tucker NFL, at Ross Tucker Pod, or just rate and review the show. Love those of you that take advantage of any of sponsors. And then making a comment on YouTube, youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. I try to pick winners in all 3 categories every single week. I want to pick you. I think we're done here.
Thanks for tuning in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Make sure to also check out Even Money, Fantasy Feast, and College Draft, all on the DraftKings Network, YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.
Shout out myfrontpagestory.com. It is the best gift to get anyone. Did you know October's the biggest month for weddings? That means it's the biggest month for anniversaries. Best anniversary gift ever. MyFrontPageStory.com. BackOfficeScheduler.com. HumanHeadNYC.com. Sporticulture. Pizza Boy Brewing.